Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of OG55 Live. In this live stream, we are going to discuss cast member staffing and experience. We're going to talk about where is Oswald in DCA, and we're going to be taking your questions. We'll do a Q&A at the end of the show. Thank you so much for joining us today. Let's get started. Welcome aboard to another episode of OG55 Live. We're talking all about the cast members, Oswald at DCA. We're taking your questions. But before we get started, I want to introduce my fantastic panel, my brothers. I'm going to start off with Dr. Dre, VashSky, host of the Freshly Squeezed show. And I think he had one more title. It was the world's most infamous historian, I believe. Another one. You got all kinds of titles.
Oh man, I do. I look, unintentional, but I just stack them up there. I don't know what's going on, but hey, I'm so happy to be here. This is awesome. When you said, hey, let's do it Monday, let's do it live with George, I was like, yes, I'm ready to do this. So I am so happy to be here. Anyway, hey, look, if you want to go ahead and interact with me, you can go ahead and do so. The screen name will be at the bottom of the photo eventually. There you go, right there. Just type that in at VashSky on Twitter, and it should pop up. And if you want to see me, well, it's going to be on the channel you're watching right now at OrangeGo55 at Freshly Squeezed, your source for juicy news and info squeezed fresh right from the Grove.
But really, nothing compares with a freshly squeezed.
Let's do it. Let's do it.
Let's do it. And down below, we got the Family Man 23, host of our Walt Disney World show, Citrus Corner. George, welcome back, brother. If you can let everybody at home know where they can find you on social media, sir.
Absolutely. You can find me on my YouTube channel, Disney Family Man 23. If you want to interact with me on Twitter at Disney George. And of course, as you had mentioned, OG, you can find me here on Orange Grove 55 with Citrus Corner with a lot of sweet and juicy, but yet sometimes sticky Disney news and info.
Pay attention, it's Joe time.
There it is.
Perfect. And a showcase of wishes says, let's do it live.
We'll do it live. It. Do it live. I'll write it and we'll do it live. Thing sucks.
Yeah.
Awesome. That's how you got to kick it off with O'Reilly when you do
Got
it.
it.
You got it. You absolutely have to. But I want to thank everybody for joining us. We're going to talk a lot about today. We're going to talk a lot about the cast member staffing, the experience overall in relation to that. We're going to talk about Oswald at DCA, like where is he? And we're going to be taking your question at the tail end of the show. We'll be taking your questions and super chats and all that good stuff. But first topic of the day, let's go into some cast member staffing and experience. Now, Dre, I know you've been following this for a while. Well, ever since the parks have reopened since the pandemic.
Absolutely.
So I'll start with you, brother. Like, where are you at when it comes to the parks, the staffing, the overall experience, all that good stuff? Kind of set the table for us, and we'll kind of go from there.
Well, I think the most appropriate way to get to where we're at and what my feelings about it are right now is to kind of start where we were. Previously, back in the day, the Disneyland Resort cast member kind of mix, right? We're talking a lot about mixes recently. Let's talk about the cast member mix. It was maybe a little bit more favorable. For lack of a better term, then maybe that might be true today. And favorable is very subjective, but I'll go ahead and explain my point here. You see, previously there was like a good mixture of kind of longtime cast members and cast members who were kind of green or new, and that kind of culture, that kind of that kind of mixture between the two different populaces. I think was a little bit more balanced than maybe Walt Disney World, because they just need so many cast members all the time. A lot of them were college students and so forth, as part of the college program and all of that. But Disneyland, it was a nice mix of long timers who have been with the company for, in some cases, decades. In some cases, we actually know who those cast members are. And cast members who were fresh and new, like I said. And so that really the kind of history and legacy of Walt's Disneyland was really nicely passed down from one generation to another. But unfortunately, with the big purge that happened during the events of 2020 and beyond, suddenly that kind of cultural mix was kind of upended. And so the question always became, who's going to be left to pass down that kind of culture that Disneyland had enjoyed ever since it opened in the 1950s? And I think we've got our answer now. Unfortunately, a lot of those longtime cast members have left. And it's kind of skewed this kind of ratio towards these very green cast members who... look, a lot of them are doing, the best job that they can, right? A lot of them are doing the absolute, most with what they had to work with. I understand working conditions are very tough right now. This is why Disneyland has implemented a new kind of, kind of 3 strikes policy, if you will, to kind of keep cast members there and working for other cast members so that the burden isn't passed down to them. I get all that, but... I've just seen lately, and I don't know if this is true with you, OG, or you, George, but I've just seen lately with the Disneyland cast members specifically, and maybe this is a company-wide thing, maybe this is an industry-wide thing, but lately it just hasn't been maybe as magical as it has in years past. OG, is that a fair assessment?
No, it is a fair assessment. And actually, I was just at the parks this past weekend, and I called you up, Dre, and I'm like, I was kind of telling you about my experience and everything. And you asked me, well, how was the cast member experience? And when I was there at the parks, I really didn't think about it. And there were a couple standout cast members, exceptional, absolutely exceptional. I'll get to them in a second, because I definitely think it's worth mentioning. But when you asked me that question, Dre, I really had, when I started to go back on my day, I started to think back and go, oh yeah, actually there was this instance and that instance and this instance and that instance that wasn't so great. And I don't want to call any cast member out specifically on the show, but there were a cast member on Main Street, extremely rude. I mean, we went into the store, we were asking for help in regards to something, and it was like she couldn't be bothered. A lot of attitude. She threw it off to like the newbie. The green cast member, literally this kid, he's like 19, 20 years old, training, because they were literally training this kid. And she threw us to him and was basically like, handle it. And now I got to say, this kid was phenomenal. I mean, he's probably only a few days on the job, and he was very, very good with the customer service, very polite, gave that Disney difference. Really, really great, interaction there. But the seasoned vet was just giving us all kinds of attitude. And it was like, what's going on here? This isn't the Disney I remember, And I've been noticing a lot more of that. And Dre, we talked about it, like this extremes, right? Where like some of the cast members are like, go above and beyond. And then like, it's like 50-50, like half of them go above and beyond. And the other half are like not doing at all what they should be doing. They're like completely phoning it in. And it's really discouraging. And I know a lot of people like to sort of evangelize cast members, right? They're all magical. They all make a great experience. And look, I love cast members, but even the cast members who work there can tell you that there are cast members that don't pull their weight. They can't. I mean, honestly, the cast members notice this stuff when their colleague isn't doing what they're supposed to do. So I think it's an insult to cast members' intelligence and just to not be honest with them and say, look, not everybody on your team is doing what they should be doing, because even those cast members will tell you that a lot of them are not doing that. And there are some that are phenomenal. I had an amazing experience with Ben over at the Red Car Trolley. He was a phenomenal, I don't know what a conductor, I guess you call him over there at the trolley. And he was doing like all kinds of funny jokes, like Jungle Cruise style humor along the whole way, and giving us a lot of history in regards to like the Carthay Circle and things like that. He was phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal. I sent in a cast compliment. Those are the cast members that are giving us this Disney difference. Those are the cast members that deserve all the money, all the raises, all the promotions, all the love. These cast members are going out there every day making each guest's experience A+ magical. So there's a lot of great cast members out there, but there are some we have to acknowledge that are phoning it in.
I think that honesty is good, because it's the only way things change for the better. as far as a guest perspective, and even amongst cast members themselves. That's why like I said, that's why they implemented the 3 strikes policy, right? Because a lot of people, a lot of cast members were taking advantage of those policies in order to get, advanced time off and maybe more time off than they should, but really putting their colleagues who had to kind of pick up the slack at really a disadvantage there. And that's just one way they've had to deal with it. I think casual is completely right with this, by the way, is they've kind of lowered standards and didn't maybe increase pay or so forth to keep, like he says, the cream of the crop. George, have you noticed this with Walt Disney World specifically?
Yeah, so that's what I was going to actually talk about, because you guys had mentioned about Disneyland, where I've noticed. Now, mind you, I have been to multiple Walt Disney World trips since the beginning of the pandy. So I got to see the different layers of where Disney was during this time. I went in October of 2020, which is basically when everything started to reopen for Walt Disney World, where you still had to wear masks even outdoors. So that was a whole complete. That was where Walt Disney World wasn't like anywhere near what we're used to it, which at that point nothing was. Then I went last year where I was like right in a pan box when things started lifting when I got down there. And then as soon as I got back, everything just went back to wearing masks, social distancing, all that.
Yeah, remember that.
So just coming off of this past June for Walt Disney World, I have seen a difference from October 2020 to now. However, it's still not up to the same caliber as it was prior to the pandy, because they are still having a lot of issues primarily with Walt Disney World with the transportation system, where they have like their bus drivers, their bus driver cast members. There's not enough to go around. I mean, they're still utilizing third-party buses, third-party drivers, flying them in, letting them stay on property just so they can utilize them as drivers. I remember when I would go in Walt Disney World, you would be in that Disney bubble. You would only see Disney buses. Now you're seeing all different kinds of company buses being used for Walt Disney World, because Disney's so desperate that they have to get all these people to and from the theme parks to the hotels, and especially since crowd levels are higher than ever, and that's good for Disney. But to the caliber of having more people come in, but still having the lack of cast members, that's an issue, and for me also, it's also about quality. And still, even to right now, when you go into Epcot for World Showcase, you can kind of, here and there get cast members from their own countries. Primarily, I've seen a lot in the France Pavilion for the Ratatouille ride. There are actually cast members from France and from Paris and everything. So I love seeing those cast members come back, but it's still to the caliber that when you go to the UK Pavilion and you dine at Rose and Crown, they don't have the UK residents cast members there, and it's like it takes away that extra. And don't get me wrong, even the cast members that they use are awesome. They're top notch, but when you're talking about storytelling and everything and what Epcot represents, you miss that culture, you miss those people, the cast members who are from those countries working there. So we're getting there. It's getting much better, but we are still not at the caliber of what it was prior to the pandy.
It's an interesting thing. I mean, look, I think those like you said, those cast members for those various countries are coming back, but I mean, at a trickling pace. And I just want to be clear here. It's not. I mean, we're talking about cast members here, but I think this kind of these kind of what do you say? This kind of temperature in the room, these cultural differences between pre-pandy and post-bandy, right, are not just limited to cast members themselves, but also to guests and guest behavior. And it's just that's kind of an interesting thing, conversation within the kind of industry right now, and in terms of these altercations between guests and so forth. There's definitely this kind of this change amongst the populace, and that is manifests itself in various ways. It's interesting we talk about the kind of new 3 strikes policy that Disneyland has, and we have a saying in IT, it's culture not code, right? And OG, you've heard me talk about this, right, with like the shopping cart rule, for example. Whereas when you have a population center and you have people past a certain point that returns their shopping cart to the actual little storage area within the parking lot, right? It's fascinating because if you look at that, if it's below a certain threshold, you might need to have tougher enforcement and more laws and so forth. And when it's above a certain level, you might not necessarily need to have those things in place. We see that represented at Disneyland, where they had this kind of previous policy, this, I don't know, was it a points-based policy, something like that, where people could call out and so forth, and schedules could be a little bit more flexible. Well, now they're moving over to this 3-point policy because there's now rampant abuse with the prior policy, and it's like that's culture, not code. And they're trying to go ahead and attempt to remedy the cultural issues. And we'll see how successful they are, but it's a result of these kind of, changes amongst the culture of cast members and maybe to some extent the country.
Well, and the thing too is I've been working, I'm pretty old, and I've been working for a long time. And even the company I'm working for right now, my regular 9 to 5, they have a pretty draconian attendance policy. I mean, it's pretty strict. I mean, this isn't just like a Disney thing. Like, a lot of cast members are kind of out there going like, oh my gosh, this is 3 strikes. Yeah, 3 strikes. I mean, that's normal for any job. I'm telling you, any job you go to, if you left Disney and went to an office job or some other company, you're going to have a similar attendance policy. These companies don't put up with people not showing up.
Now, can I ask you, fellas? Now, maybe it's just me, because I'm a bit anal about these kind of things, that I would get on myself even for just getting 1 strike. So why would anyone be upset to the fact of getting 3? Like, if I got 1 strike for something, God forbid, I'd be so down on myself thinking, what did I do so bad that I got a strike, and how can I improve that? But yet you have these people who are griping about 3 strikes. I think that's very generous of companies.
I think the idea is I think Mike Chat lays this out a lot in their various articles on the subject, saying that the cast members at Disneyland require a little bit more flexibility than some of your other jobs out there, simply because they make the argument of pay, and they have maybe other jobs, other responsibilities that they have to attend to, and so forth. So they require that flexibility, and that's what's made historically Disneyland such an attractive place to work, according to their view. But from the company's perspective, I guess there was somebody. I guess that one of the reasons why they were implementing this policy is because they had a cast member, I guess. I believe it was either 60 or 120. What is it? No shows in the last year, and they still couldn't fire him under the previous policy. I mean, it was some insane number.
I couldn't get away with that at my. I'm telling you, if I no showed, no call, just a handful of times, 2 times even. 2 or 3 times, you're done, dude. Like, you're done. Like, the fact that Disney put up with it that many times is insane. It's completely insane. Look, at the same time, Disney needs to have empathy, right? Like, obviously, your kid is sick. There's a family emergency. We've all been there. You have to, as a corporation, have empathy for your cast, for your employees, and sort of give a little bit. Absolutely. But clearly, like you were saying, Dre, there is abuse in the system.
Right.
And this policy is not that different than most companies. I'm telling you, I don't work for Disney. My 9 to 5 is not Disney, and the attendance policy is not that different than what I'm seeing over at Disneyland.
And Ranking the Mouse does make a good point, right? Where, you have to listen to the cast members complaining, can't afford to lose any more cast members on the job. And I do 100% agree with that. But there's that abuse will lose its own share of cast members because of conditions from people having to pick up the slack for others who aren't there. So it's a little bit of a, it's a back and forth tug and pull here. And apparently they are listening to cast members and their, demands and needs. The way they went about it was to prevent another kind of strike vote, if you will. There was some, back end political stuff there that nobody needs to necessarily get into. But, yes, I do agree with you. You have to listen to them, and I believe they are. It's just the reason we bring it up at all is because we're kind of seeing this shift in how cast members conduct themselves, not only publicly but privately, amongst themselves. And it's kind of an interesting thing. It's why I asked you, OG, about what level of service that you received during your day, because I am kind of concerned about these, cultural issues amongst the cast members presenting themselves with the regular day guests.
Well, and I will say, for my whole day, my whole experience, it was very much kind of a 50-50 thing. It was like I had like 2 or 3 cast members that really stood out, right? There was a gal, and I forgot her name, in the Adventureland Bazaar, who was phenomenal. She was joking around with me. She was really, really funny. All right. She was great. Ben from the trolley, fantastic. There were like 2 or 3 really, really standout cast members who deserve all the love, all the pay raise, all the, everything, promotions. They were outstanding. And then there were like 2 or 3 that were just like, you walk up to them and they basically give you this look like,
Oh my God, who the hell cares?
and I'm like, whoa, like, what did I do? Right. Like, I'm asking for help, like it's crazy. So it was very 50-50, and here's the thing. I work in a very, customer facing kind of job. I deal with a lot of clients, a lot of people on the phone. And if you're having a bad day, it sucks, but you still have to present yourself in at least a polite manner, and at least in a way where you're professional, And unfortunately, coming from a company that I hold to a really high standard, I wasn't seeing that from many of the cast members, and that's really, really disappointing. Some were fantastic. Absolutely. But there were some that was like, they're just here to do their shift, and they want to clock out. They didn't care at all. And that's unfortunate.
And honestly, I actually have to add this too, because this kind of falls into this category that, if anyone out there wanted to know, where I have been this whole entire time, I've been working 2 weeks straight at my job, have to do what you got to do, family man, job never ends, and for, people to then say, oh, well, for 3 strikes, you're out. Well, it's like, you know what? You got to do what you got to do. You got to take care of business. And it's like, you got to suck it up. You got to deal with it. It's why it's called work. It's work.
I know. It's not fun. No one likes working. And at least at Disneyland, you're working at a really cool place. I want to give a shout out to our friend Theme Park Casual here with the $5 donation to the channel. Casual, thank you so much, brother. We appreciate you so much, man. He says here, just because of the robust discussion, keep up the great work, gents. Thank you, Casual, so much. Hey, Dre, let's give this guy a robust Christine Waistlines McCarthy,
You mean a
Christine's waistline robust?
discussion right there? Is that what you were looking for?
That's what we're looking for. Thank you so much, Casual, brother. You are a friend of the channel. We love you, man. We love you absolutely.
Thank you. That is awesome. That is super cool. Thank you so much, Casual.
And we're getting a lot of great comments here. I want to share a lot of these. So Epic Diz is saying it's hard to care when you don't get paid enough to make ends meet, especially seeing the profits park parks make, and you still make $15 an hour being generous. LOL. Yeah, you are being generous with the 15 an hour. And I get that, Epic. I totally understand that. But that's kind of the plight of every worker everywhere. Like the average rank and file person is never going to make what the CEO of the company is making. And that goes for Disney, that goes for Comcast, that goes for any company you're working for. The company I'm working for, I don't work in the theme park industry or entertainment industry. The company I'm working for, I don't make anywhere near what the CEO is making, you know? And that's just the way kind of life is. And I know it sucks, man. I know it sucks. I live it every day too. But at the same time, you have a job and you still have to be polite. That's all I'm saying. I don't know, Dre. Am I off base or am I?
No. I don't think you're off base. I think you're, it's the kind of the realities of the marketplace. It's just a shame because Disney used to pride itself, and I believe the chat's already talking about it, right? This kind of this kind of old-fashioned way that Disney used to do things, and used to put exceeding emphasis on, quality and, customer focused attention, quality, detail, all those kind of things. And yet we have seen a decline in standards in order to, maintain that pay threshold. As much as, people attributed the Disney look to other things, right? This change that we saw right before the parks opened, the change to the Disney look. I was always saying that's to keep the pay the way it is. That's what that's all about. And other people had other things to say about it, of course. But that's what really the reality was of that move. Right. And when you do lower standards, not just appearance, but in other capacities, well, you do get some consequences from those actions, and I think it's manifesting itself with the parks. And it's really kind of a sad and a sad thing to see. And look, if it's because of pay or other things, that's something that I suppose needs to be addressed as simple as that is. I mean, you do have other theme park proprietors in the area that charge similar, the same, whatever. We just expected a little bit more from Disney previously, right, when it came to customer service and so forth, and it's just disheartening to see. Now, is there a way to solve this? I do think there is. Maybe a slight pay increase might be part of it, but I think more important than that, though, is really, I think you do need kind of like a kind of a cultural or representative team, if you were, of kind of long timers within the company that can kind of go down to each division, each maybe attraction level or so forth, and kind of inculcate a kind of a cultural change, right? Pass down those lessons from the Walt Disney days, and see if you can kind of impart kind of a wisdom and knowledge base that cast members can pull from that could maybe lift everybody up together. Maybe kind of those ways, I think, would go alongside maybe other solutions that could maybe raise the tide for all boats, so to speak.
Well, and one thing that concerns me is that, and this is going to maybe be an uncomfortable conversation to have, but I think that it's something that, like, I think cast members need to kind of also acknowledge, or at least kind of realize. A lot of people come out there and will just say, you know what, cast members, just give them, $25 an hour, right? They deserve it. They're the magic makers. And look, that's awesome. The cast members that are going above and beyond, absolutely. I would love to see them making good money. Absolutely. The problem with that, though, is that we live in the real world where a lot of these companies, they're not going to take the hit, though. Do you understand? Like, if they start paying their cast members $25 an hour, they'll offset that somewhere else. So basically what they'll do is, okay, you know what, we'll give these cast members all $25 an hour, but now what we'll do is we'll lay off a bunch of them. So that'll offset that cost. So now, instead of having, just throw out a number, 1,000 cast members, now you're only gonna have 700, because Disney can't pay 1,000 people $25 an hour. They can only pay 700. So now those 300 cast members are out of a job completely. They're making $0 an hour now. And that concerns me when I see these big wage increases that Disney's just going to opt out and say, look, we don't need as many cast members. We'll automate. And we've seen that in the fast food industry. When the Fight for 15 movement was really chugging along, what was the first thing that like these fast food companies like McDonald's did? They automated because they couldn't afford or they didn't want to take the loss or the hit with paying their employees more. So what they did was they were forced into it. They paid their employees more, and then they laid off a bunch and they automated. I worry that's going to happen to Disneyland cast members. I don't want to see that because I love the cast member. You know, I that's my concern. That it is a big concern of mine.
And that's why I said maybe like a little more, not dramatically more, because you're right. Those you know, those changes in market, you know, definitely. I mean, these big you know, Fortune 500 corporations or so, they're going to get theirs. That's just how that's going to be. Yeah. And you're talking about a labor pool within the Parks and Resorts division that's probably over 150,000 at this point. I mean, you're talking about a significant part of their balance sheet being, you know, just on labor alone. It's you know, you have to play these things a little bit delicately. Now, listen, I mean. You know, and Chapek's even on the verge of maybe raising prices again, so forth. We saw in that CNBC article, he said that, right? You know, kind of intimating that they were going in that direction, maybe you know, sooner rather than later. It's frustrating that the you know, the price of a ticket and those increases can't maybe be, you know, commensurate with pay increases, or I should say, can't be linked to pay increases for cast members. You know, it's kind of frustrating that doesn't happen, but it's the kind of, you know, reality of the market. And look, if you thought yield management strategy was aggressive now at their you know, level of cast and with their pay, if you have dramatic pay increases, one can only imagine how aggressive that yield management strategy. And they talk about this before. They relish in it on these earnings calls and stuff. We can only imagine how aggressive it'll be later.
Yeah, and California Dreamin' says here, cast members are not paid well. A lot of them live out of their cars because they cannot afford rent anywhere nearby. And California Dreamin', my heart goes out to those cast members, but I don't think that's necessarily a Disney issue. I think it's more of a California cost of living issue. Yeah. Disney follows the laws, the California laws in regards to minimum wage and all that. They do what they're within the parameters of the law. It's California that's just impossible. I mean, even if you don't work at Disney, if you're working at Universal or you're working at the Apple Store, you still can't afford to live here. It's insane. It's absolutely insane. What do you think, George, in terms of this whole idea that cast members are living out of their car, they can't afford? Where's your mind at with this?
Yeah, I mean, kind of to echo what you were saying, OG, I think it's more so not really a Disney issue. And I think that's where a lot of everything is coming from. Like everyone, like we just heard recently that Universal raised the price of their Simpsons donut. Yeah. And it's like, and it just like goes unscathed. It's like nobody talks about it, but it's like the second Disney raises something, it's like, oh, get your torches and your pitchforks out, and we gotta. So it's like it's everywhere. No matter what company you're dealing with, no matter what company you're working for, no matter who you're associated with, it's everywhere. It's not just Disney,
right? Well, and George,
prices? Why would we do that? We can just shorten portion sizes.
See, that's what they're doing, right? Yeah. That's what they're doing.
Waistlines McCarthy.
That's it. They're not raising prices. They're short-shifting portion size in order to control it, because I think there is a limit in which they can do that. Go ahead, OG.
Well, I was going to say, George, you recently went to your first time actually to a Universal park over in Orlando. Yes. And you didn't exactly have a top-tier experience with the team members over there, at least in the hotel, from what I understand.
Yes.
So maybe this is an industry-wide problem with the staffing.
Right. Yeah, it is.
No, it is.
Honestly, the only, and I really hate to say this and not to put Universal on blast, but it's the truth. I'm not making this up, folks. It's like the only Universal team members that really honestly gave a damn was the front desk at the hotel. Those were the ones that only really cared. Housekeeping, security guards, team members in the parks, it was like fighting tooth and nail to get them to actually do their job.
Which is so surprising too, because I know for a fact that Universal Studios Florida, that whole resort team there, has been very aggressive in pulling the labor that they can out of the Floridian market, and to such an extent that they're increasing wages as we speak, because the situation over there is so competitive, and these big theme park enterprises need so much labor to actually staff up their parks. I know they're increasing wages, and still that doesn't necessarily result in a better service.
Now, what I am going to do though, the next time I do go back to Universal, because I am going to go back again. I do love the parks. Good. I do want to have another experience, and this time I want to see, was it a fluke, or was it something that is repetitive within Universal, that their team members don't really have the same caliber as the cast members at Disney. Maybe it's just me being biased. Maybe, me just going into Universal, assuming that it was going to be on the same level as Disney, and maybe my expectations were too high. But aside from that, I mean, I think anybody that, even if someone did not ever go into a Disney park and they went to Universal and had majority of the experience that I did with the team members, I don't think they would be too happy.
Yeah. I tell you. I mean, it's tough. It's really, really tough, and that's why I make a real big point to really let Disney know when I come in contact with those really exceptional Disney difference cast members at the park. I always do those cast compliments. I always let Disney know, because it's important. You got to let them know that this is your star player. This is your star player. You got to let this person, don't put them on the bench too much. Let them go out there and give them the hours and give them the pay raises and give them the promotions. These are the people that we want to see risen up. There's a lot of great people at Disneyland Resort. Matt from Rise of the Resistance, a few weeks ago, I was there on July 17th. Most of the day I was bummed out because they didn't play Walt Disney's speech. But aside from that, Matt was a highlight of the day. He was giving us all kinds of history on when they built Batu, the process in terms of bringing the trees over from around the world and planting them in Batu, and how it brought over really exotic spiders and shit like that. And it was really fascinating. He was really getting into it with us. And I'm like, this is a great cast member. This guy's going above and beyond. He's really interacting with us and giving us some, taking time to talk and everything. He was phenomenal. Mm-hmm. We need more of those cast members. And we also have to acknowledge that there are some cast members that are not doing 100%. It's okay to say that. It's okay to admit that. It's okay to admit that some are phoning it in and just say, I'm just here to collect my paycheck and get out of here. Is it 5:30 yet? It's okay to acknowledge that. Even the cast members know you have a few colleagues that are doing that, right? So,
and this is why I agree with all the sentiments right here. Whereas, just wages alone, I don't think is enough, and I do agree with that. That's why my cultural representative idea, right? These little small teams that go around and kind of lift at the tide, so to speak. Also, too, like you said, OG, individual recognition. I think there should be maybe enhanced emphasis on that at the corporate level. Those cast compliments should have I think there should be things kind of attached to that. Obviously, you have to, you have to balance this out with, perverse incentives and so forth, and how that can be corrupted. But, I think individual recognition should be applauded, right? I think, like I said, I think it should be a kind of a comprehensive approach in order to solve this issue with following standards as far as cast members go when it comes to quality of service. And I think there are ways to do that. I just hope that they're attempting to achieve that. I hope there are programs being instituted or put in place in order to facilitate some of those changes that I think need to happen.
And Kyle, Kyle, I'm so sorry. I hope I don't mispronounce your name, brother. Kyle Kachi, I believe, says here, I don't think you guys understand what's going on in hospitality right now. It's hard to find employees for shift work right now. Cost of living has skyrocketed and everyone is short-staffed. Well, Kyle, that's actually been the theme of the whole show so far.
Yeah.
We've acknowledged that it's a staffing issue. That's why Universal's having the same problem. That's kind of why we're in this mess right now. It's not, like we say, it's not just Disney. I mean, it is industry wide, or really just like economy wide.
It's economy wise. That's what it is. That's what it boils down to. It's economy.
Yes. And that's why I made it very clear early on that this was likely an industry-wide issue. This is not just limited to Disney, but it's most profound at Disney because we had such high standards to start them off with when it came to the quality of service that we expect from them. And also, too, let's be honest here, Disney likes to position itself as a quality product, as one that sets itself out from the rest of them. So we have those kind of kind of bias or standards that we're so used to in place, and so I think it's being felt most profoundly there because of that starting point. So
100%.
Just to clarify that.
And George, I just want to say, I do have some leaked audio from the cast members that you said were really working hard at the front desk at Cabana Bay. I don't know, man. This leaked audio is pretty damning.
Yeah, I just stare at my desk, but it looks like I'm working. I do that for probably another hour after lunch, too. I'd say in a given week, I probably only do about 15 minutes of real, actual work.
I was kidding. No, I was kidding. No, all in all, I think that the cast members and team members over at Universal, I think overall they do a phenomenal job. I think right now, there is that staffing issue. I do think there are some bad apples, though. I will admit, I'm not going to shy away from that. I'm not going to be one of these content creators to say every single cast member, every single team member is phenomenal and a magic maker. That's not true.
Well, I will say in Universal's case, I would love for someone to point me out a good team member, because in my experience, it was trying to find where's Waldo. It's like,
wow, ouch.
Yikes. Well, we'll have to see if that trend continues, both at Universal and in some cases at Disney. Look, listen, and we want to be very clear, really clear here. There are great cast members. They put in the time each and every day. But I think the criticism of cast members who maybe aren't fulfilling those duties is beneficial in order to raise others up and in order to overcome those problems, because I think there are problems that need to be addressed. So this kind of constant cast members, they're all great, they're all fantastic, it doesn't do anybody any favors. And to lump people in with others who really are going above and beyond, that's not fair to them either.
Right. And Kyle Kashi follows up with Cabana Bay is run by Lowe's Hotels, not Universal. Yeah, but Kyle, I mean, that's true, but it bears Universal's name and branding, though. It represents their brand. So they need to get on that and look, I mean, if I have a company representing my YouTube channel, I'm going to make sure that it's, representing me well. So
and it's not even just the people that was in Cabana Bay. It was also the team members inside the park. So that would be an issue with the Lowe's Hotel brand and still with the Universal brand, because again, you're going to have these companies that's going to represent Universal. You got to be on your game.
Showcase is right about this, by the way. I mean, I've seen some very, very green cast members lately, and that only makes for a more frustrating environment in which to work. And maybe you can take your frustrations out on guests in front of you. That is absolutely the case. And OG, you actually brought up a story of that same thing happening. These cast members being thrown to the wolves, so to speak. It's not fair.
I couldn't believe it, dude. I couldn't believe it. I don't want to get into too much detail because I don't want to get anyone in trouble. You know what I'm saying? But it was on Main Street. And we walk up, and the lady gave us all kinds of attitude, a whole bunch of
oh my God, who the hell cares?
Kind of attitude. And she just
very much.
Right, exactly. And then she just basically said, oh, you handle it, right? And the guy that she said to handle it was literally in training. Okay. And he was he looked like he was literally just out of high school. Okay. He was a young kid. And I mean, I felt bad for the guy, man. It's like, you know, he's just young kids being thrown to the wolves. And I got to say, I mean, the kid did a phenomenal job. He really, really did. He provided a great customer service. He was really polite. He was a total gentleman, really friendly. And, but still, it's like he was green. You could tell. And I know he was because they were even training him on the job while we were absolutely insane. But I don't even mind that so much. But when you have the other cast member behind the counter with the attitude and not being so polite, that bothers me. That really, really bothers me. I expect a lot more from Disney. I really do.
Yeah.
I really, really do. I'm sorry.
Yeah, in Anaheim Park Tourists, actually, interestingly enough, I do agree with you. Definitely, you know, if a cast member is really off-putting, let's say, definitely got to, you know, handle that at guest relations for sure. But Anaheim Park Tourists, it's interesting, you know, the rooms at Grand Californian to be dirty. I mean, that's a very interesting thing. I mean, that is a premier hotel, not just in the Disneyland Resort, but in the Anaheim area and amongst the various resorts on offer from the Disney Parks and Experiences and Parks division. That's a very fascinating thing there. That it would be that'd be dirty. We've seen declining standards, let's say, company wide amongst the various. Labor ranks, so to speak. And it's disheartening to hear because, you know, like I said before and multiple times throughout this whole show, they used to set themselves apart. Yeah. Oh gosh. Oh, man, that is,
Yikes. Yeah,
Yikes.
Anaheim Park. Hey, first, I just want to say too, Anaheim Park Tourists is freaking awesome. I love them. They are awesome. But that's pretty gnarly.
Fingernail clippings. That's just downright janky. It's
man, that
is one big pile of shit.
Yeah, that's exactly what that is.
Hey, that's really gross. That's really freaking gross.
And that's a hygiene type of thing there. I mean, you know, they're talking about, you know, having ways of keeping things clean and, you know, during this time of saying, you know, what to keep clean, what to, you know, wipe down this, wipe down that, but you're going to have fingernail clippings, you know, inside the room and not even, and that was another issue. Unfortunately, with Disney is the housekeeping shortage, because I remember like there was like, maybe they would do like every other day or every 2 days. But I mean, like if you have like a 4-night stay at a Disney hotel, you're not getting any housekeeping service whatsoever unless you hit 1 week. And then they'll come out and just change. They'll give you more pillows or they'll change out your sheets, empty out the garbage, but you're pretty much on your own. Yeah. If you're not staying in X amount of days moving forward.
No, I mean, that tells you the kind of labor issues that they're having at the resort level. Go ahead, OG.
No, I was going to say, make sure you really shake those sheets. Yeah, make sure you really shake. I can't even say it. Shake those sheets out. Make sure there's no toenail clippings in there. You know. You really want to check before you crawl into bed. That's all I'm saying.
I mean, if I'm going to shake out the sheets, I'm not going to be looking for toenail clippings. I'm going to be looking for something else to make sure.
You know, it's crazy. And then David D says, George, that's usually the DVC policy on housekeeping. That's pretty.
Yeah, I mean, it's DVC policy, but DVC policy are like a timeshare kind of unit. That's a much different policy than staying per night, and especially being priced per night too. That's a whole different can of worms.
Right.
Now, look, listen. A lot of some, I would say, resort proprietors. These kind of hotel chains have kind of moved back to a semi-daily operation of house cleaning. So yes, I mean, it is kind of an industry-wide thing where you're having, issues, with staffing in general. And that's what's, likely the reason what's keeping Disney back from doing that. There's a little yield management, I would suspect, but a little bit, but it's a frustrating guest experience, and this is why I bring this up. This is why I talk about it, because, it's part of the thing that, like I said, used to set Disney apart, really used to inculcate some loyalty, is through that great customer service. When that's not present, when that's not there, at that point, should I just go to Universal instead? I mean, that's kind of the reality there.
Right. Marty says I'd lose my shit if I got stabbed by a toenail. We'll see. That's pretty gross. That's pretty gross, man.
Oh man.
No, that's not why I'm paying those big bucks over at Grand Cali to get stabbed by a toenail.
Yeah. Well, yeah. But look, it's oh Jesus. Jokes aside, I do care about this company tremendously. I want to see it do well, and I want to see people coming back. I want to see people, loyal to the company and so forth. But how can you do that if you're treated, less like a guest when you actually come to the gates? That's all I'm saying.
100%. So let's pivot now from the cast member experience to Oswald at DCA. And I don't think we'll spend too much time on this, but when I was at the park on Saturday, I walk into DCA, and to the left, there's this little gas station shop called Oswald's. And they used to actually sell Oswald merch at Oswald's. I know, go fucking figure, right? It's amazing. They would sell Oswald merch at Oswald's. It was really kind of brilliant,
Yeah.
But now I couldn't find any Oswald stuff. There was one mug, which was pretty awesome. It was actually from Tokyo Disney. When I looked inside the tag, it was Tokyo Disney merch that I guess they shipped over here. One mug, everything else was like generic Disney stuff. Now, this concerns me because I think that, number one, I love Oswald. I think he's a fantastic character. Sure. And I think Disney spent all that money, and I think they trade Al Michaels for him and all this stuff. It's like, and you're not utilizing him at all. You're not utilizing it at all. And I know Disney's looking at the numbers going, oh, Oswald isn't selling merch. Well, you haven't done anything with Oswald. Put Oswald in the Mickey Mouse shorts that are enormously popular on Disney Channel and give him more screen time in that kind of stuff. And I think he would move more merch, but they don't do anything with them. And then they sit there and they go, oh, well, it's not selling. Got to take it out. It's frustrating. It's absolutely frustrating.
Oh, it absolutely is. Yeah. Especially like you said, the Al Michaels trade, because Al Michaels, I mean, he, Universal, I should say, NBC Universal, right? They have utilized that acquisition of Al Michaels to great extent in order to position their Sunday Night Football product as one of the premier sports events of that football season. It's quite impressive what they've been able to do with that trade. Whereas Oswald, yeah, we had a little bit of a merchandise and kind of character push initially, as probably pushed by Bob Iger, couldn't putting that thing into place, and now nothing. Ever since supposedly, Iger's left the company, maybe even beforehand. And it really is unfortunate because I think he is a great character. I think it is kind of representative of this kind of quirky, interesting time in Disney history, and, gave us the birth of Mickey and changed Disney's, Walt Disney's philosophy of business going forward. I mean, it was so profound. It was so... it's just really unfortunate not to see him represented other than the name on the of the shop there.
And 100%. Mickey Mouse is everywhere. You could find him, Mickey, his home is at Disneyland. They have, right. Toontown and what have you, where Oswald find his home in DCA. And I love how they integrated him, right before you enter Buena Vista Street, which was fitting because of the story behind Buena Vista Street. It's supposed to be during the time when Walt first came to California with a suitcase and a dream, and this is where his journey began. But it started not with a mouse. It started with a rabbit, which eventually led to the mouse because he lost the rights to him. So I think Oswald's story is just very interesting. Now, I do know, would I love to see him still integrated in DCA? Absolutely. But even more, which he's probably not going to be, but I would love to even see a piece of him be added into Toontown as for like the change, just cool. Just to have him be a part of that. So maybe that's where that merch is going to go. Who really knows? But
that's true.
I do want to see more Oswald.
And I really thought it was kind of like almost poetic how you have Disneyland where you walk in, you see the big Mickey floral, right? And then you go to the other side, like at DCA, and it's a lot of Oswald stuff, which is like the earlier life of Walt. Yeah. And I really love that kind of like George Lucas always says, it's poetry, it rhymes. it really did kind of rhyme. It really was kind of poetic, you know? And then to see him systematically removed from DCA, it's just sad. And it's so easy. He's a really cute character. I mean, you can really, like I said, just add him into the Mickey Mouse shorts that are already wildly successful, and he'll start to move the merch. He definitely will. I even suggested to you, Dre, you know, Animaniacs was a really cool concept where these characters were trapped in the water tower from the 1930s and they got busted out in the 90s, right? And they kind of had like this almost like this culture shock when they got out. You could even do a similar concept for an animated show for Oswald, you know, because he still has that very 1930s look and what have you. There's so much potential there. And the only thing we've seen with him really is that gas station at DCA and the video game, the Epic Mickey, and that's it.
And that's where they could actually feed off of that, because Oswald and Mickey interacted together in Epic Mickey. So they already have a dueling relationship in that, you know, in that sense. So, I mean, why not include him in with the tunes, the Fab Five, you know?
Right.
I never thought, I never thought of it, OG. I never thought of the Oswald's gas station be kind of a reflective or representation of the kind of juxtaposition between contrasting styles of Main Street and Buena Vista Street. That's kind of a beautiful thing right there.
It is.
It's really unfortunate to see him, you know, to not really see him prominently used, even though you have this great character with this amazing history. I do agree with you, OG. Put him in the shorts, you know, really put him out there as a kind of a reoccurring character, and I think he would catch on, you know, especially if you give him kind of his own kind of unique personalities and so forth as a juxtaposition of Mickey. Not unlike how those juxtaposition exists, that contrast exists at Disneyland Resort between the various Buena Vista Street and Main Street. It's quite interesting also, too, with this kind of merch thing here. You said it was a Tokyo product that you saw there at Oswald?
Yeah.
That's interesting, and I think that's a reflection of not having the kind of Disney stores or Disney outlet stores where this product would usually go. We're kind of seeing this kind of funky thing in regards to merchandise because of that, like getting Tokyo product on, you know, in Buena Vista Street. Also, too, in Cars Land, interestingly enough, I believe in Ramones. You know, usually in Cars Land, all the Cars Land merchandise was Cars related, right? But in Ramones, it's interesting, Mike, I got a photo of this, of like generic Disney merchandise in that store. It's kind of interesting because it's like, wow, would we necessarily accept that, you know, in Marvel or in Star Wars Galaxy's Edge for that matter? No, we wouldn't. But the fact that it's actually happening at Ramones suggests, you know, other things going on when it comes to merchandise, maybe supply chain issues and so forth. And maybe that plays into the Oswald conversation. Maybe that's part of the reason why they haven't capitalized on that character, because of, you know, supply chain issues, limited merch sales, and things of that nature.
100%. And Marty Snyder says, I've actually heard adults tell their kids that he's old black and white Mickey. You know, it's funny, Marty. I actually have a story. Years ago, like I'm talking a long time, well, like 2014-ish, I had a coworker. And she knew I was like all into Disneyland, right? And she sent me an email. She's like, I went to Disneyland Resort the other day, and we went to California Adventure. And she's like, who's this like imitation Mickey over at DCA they got going, standing there on Buena Vista Street? I'm like, what are you talking? Imitation Mickey? Or what? Don't disrespect my boy Oswald like that. This is crazy. I mean, but that's the thing, Marty. You bring up a great point, and the overall point is that no one knows who he is because Disney doesn't give him anything. They don't have a show. They don't have a cartoon. There's nothing. They just put him out there. You gotta release some content, and they don't ever do it. It's really a shame. It really, really is a shame.
It's one of the problems with having so many brands as part of this huge conglomerate, right? It's just like, you know, your best talent is spread thin amongst all of the various IPs and all the various characters. This is why the Muppets get, you know, completely, you know, overlooked, so to speak, right? Because who's left in order to take these characters and really kind of you know, see them to maturity? There isn't. Unfortunately, and
sad.
You know, that's kind of the bad thing there.
Yeah. Well, let's move on to a little Q&A. Let's kind of dip into some questions from the audience. We got a lot of great questions already I want to dive into. Kyle's asking, okay, question. And this might be George's thing, because George is our D23 Expo guy. So he says, question, going to D23 Expo and Oogie Boogie Bash all the way from the East Coast. Am I going to regret spending... East Coast? Am I going to regret spending this money on this over a week at Walt Disney World Parks? I'll let you handle that, George.
Yeah.
I've never been to Disney World, and you're the D23 guy, so go ahead.
Well, Kyle, I first have to say, actually, everything that you just said in your question is basically me. I'm going to the D23 Expo. I'm going to Oogie Boogie Bash, and I'm from the East Coast. And, I get this question actually a lot now that I've been going to Disneyland more frequent, as opposed to also going to Walt Disney World. Me personally, just speaking of the Expo and Oogie Boogie Bash, plus intermixing that with Disneyland, you can't go wrong. So I'm telling you, man, you're not wasting any money there. Disneyland with Oogie Boogie Bash, and then you're going to tie that in with the Expo. I think that would be awesome, especially if you are coming from the East Coast, because if you're someone like me that doesn't get too many opportunities to go to Disneyland, anything that I could get my butt over to California to experience, I say go for it. As far as the second part, is it better compared to Walt Disney World? Again, it goes back to the fact that you can't really say one over the other. But if you're given the opportunity to experience Oogie Boogie Bash and experience Disneyland and tie it to the Expo, I would highly recommend doing that. Then go into Walt Disney World, because us East Coasters, we can go to Walt Disney World more frequent than Disneyland.
And Kyle, I do want to ask you real quick before you go on, George. Kyle, if you're still here in the chat, let us know, is this your first time going to Disneyland? Is this your very first time ever? And is it your first time ever going to D23? So go ahead, George. I just wanted to ask him that, because that also changes the equation.
Well, actually,
quite a bit.
what's actually funny, I was actually just going to ask that. That was actually what I was going to say. It's a huge difference that if this is going to be your first time experience at Disneyland, as opposed to Walt Disney World, because they're two different beasts. They're like apples and oranges. They're equally delicious, but they have two very different tastes. And me personally, if you haven't been to Disneyland, or even if you have, sometimes you could get a little bit more fulfilled at Disneyland than you can at Walt Disney World right now, because Mr. VashSky and I were just talking about this on a recent Citrus Corner episode, where is Walt Disney World Parks going to expand, and talking about Animal Kingdom and how they only have 7 attractions right now at Animal Kingdom. And if they were to close Dino Land for a refurb or change it to something else, it shortens your day even more. Sure. You don't get that at Disneyland.
No, you get 7 at Disneyland. You get 7 attractions before you hit the end of before you hit the hub.
Yeah, exactly. No,
Disneyland's not messing around. They got attractions for days,
Okay, so he said second time and first time at D23. So if it's your second time at Disneyland, even for sure you had a grand time during your first time, but your second time is going to be even better, because now you kind of know what to expect a little bit, and especially since you're going into a new territory as you're used to Walt Disney World. And then plus with Oogie Boogie Bash, if this is, I'm assuming Oogie Boogie Bash is your first time as well, which you'd absolutely love it. Mr. VashSky and I did that last year, and we're going to do it this year. So, definitely looking forward to it. And first time at D23, the only thing that I could say to you is don't have your expectations high of seeing every single thing you want to see.
Yeah, no,
be prepared to wait in lines, deal with a lot of crowds, and just make the best out of your day of what you can see.
Good advice. Very, very good advice. I think Kyle, I think you're gonna have a great time, man. And let us know once you have your trip, hit us back up and let us know how it went. I'm very curious.
And anyone who is going to the D23 Expo, I'm going to be there. I'm representing Orange Grove 55, and if you see me, definitely come up, say hello. Yep. We'll get a selfie or what have you. We'll go balls to the wall.
There we go. Absolutely. And we got Mr. David.
There you go. Won't have the alert there though, so unfortunately.
And we got Mr. David D. He's asking, will all three of you be at D23? Unfortunately, not. I am not going to be at D23. I missed the boat in terms of buying tickets. They're all sold out now. Mm-hmm. George, like he said, will be. Dre, are you going to D23? I know.
No.
Okay,
no,
so you're not going either.
I've done it once. I'm good. I'm good. I will be in the area, but I will not be at D23 Expo. No.
I actually, David, I went last time on 2019, and it was pretty cool. We got into the studio panel. It was a lot of fun. I saw Bob Iger and Bob Chapek, actually. We only sat like maybe 3 or 4 rows behind them. I got to say, at that time in 2019, they were pretty chummy. I don't know.
Yeah, I was just going to say, you weren't going into a segment of WrestleMania.
No, they were chummy back then. I'm telling you. I remember watching the two of them interact. It wasn't just them. It was like their families too. They were really close, man. Like you could tell, like they were really, they were, yeah. And boy, has that changed.
That whole dynamic has changed quite a bit there. That is for sure. Now, you know, look,
you know what I like to, I'm sorry, Dre. I was just going to say how it kind of reminds me of is on The Fox and the Hound, how they started out as friends and then became enemies as time went on, because you have the Fox and the Hound. So bad representation, but you know, that's
look, I've had my share of experiences. You know, you talk about, you know, sitting behind executives. I was, you know, fortunate enough to be on the kind of the floor of the Disney Legends ceremony. Met a lot of great people sitting, you know, right behind Ron Clements and John Musker, actually. So that was pretty cool, you know. And I've had a great experience at D23 Expo once. And I am satisfied with that. So I will have the betters amongst me, like George, for example, go in my stead. How about that?
There we go. And Kyle Bosher, and Kyle, again, man, I am so sorry if I'm like massacring your last name. But Kyle's asking, what do you think is going to happen to the Main Street Electrical Parade after it glows away on September 1st? What I think is going to happen is I think it's going to glow away and then it'll come right back in a year or two, and Disney needs an attendance boost, because that's what happens all the time. So I'm going
to say this. I'm getting a shirt for this, folks, and I really mean this. I've said this before and I'll say it again. This parade in general has resurrected more than Christ. Like it is like it's constantly coming back. So if you think that you're disappointed that you're not going to see it moving forward past September 1st, trust me, it'll be back.
Yeah, it's just like Emperor Palpatine.
Everything is proceeding as I have foreseen.
It doesn't die, okay? This thing will always be around. Somehow it returned, you know, as Poe said.
Oh yes, it always tends to find its way out in the parks again, right? I believe Disney has long-term storage for 3 parades. I think it's whatever DCA's last parade was, Paint the Night, Electrical Parade, and the Christmas Fantasy Parade. Yep, they're part of the rotation, folks. Don't even worry about it.
But here's the thing too. Dave from Fresh Baked made a video. And I watched his video and I was trying so hard not to get excited, because I'm like, oh, this is just a rumor. This is just like kind of like piecing things together. Sure. But I couldn't help myself. I was like, oh man, maybe he's on something, you know? But the Paint the Night floats are stored away. They haven't been dismantled. His street team took a picture of the Incredibles float in storage.
Right.
It's
very recently.
And he heard a rumor that the costumes for that parade were recently driven back from the Cerritos warehouse to the resort. And he said that in his video. And I'm like, that's interesting. Now, again, there could be 1,001 different reasons why that's the case. Man, I mean, I got a little bit excited. I'm like, oh, maybe this is happening, fam. Maybe this is happening. So we'll see. And again, I don't want to put it out there like it's happening for sure. But look, he brought up a great point in the video that Disney is celebrating their 100th anniversary.
They are.
So they're going to pull out all the stops. So maybe they'll do like going back and have a 100th anniversary float or something. You know, you never know.
Wait a minute. Are you saying is the 100th anniversary? That's maybe when we can do this again? Is that possible?
It's possible. It's possible. So I don't know. I think, look, again, it's all rumor. And Dave says that in his video, all rumor. They're kind of piecing things together, but I don't know. They know. And look at all the money Disney's made with the electrical parade, coming back.
Oh, absolutely.
These popcorn buckets and stuff, right? Like the Elliott and they're selling like hotcakes. And if they brought Paint the Night back, the merch opportunities there are through the roof. I mean, they could do so much, man. I mean, it just endless, absolutely endless.
Oh, it's endless. They have a gold medallion machine in the Penny Arcade. I mean, this, the way they merchandise these products here. Hey, Disney might not like the locals, but they definitely do cater towards them sometimes in the merch, and they do earn quite a bit, a pretty penny off of them every once in a while.
Every once in a while. And we got Crystal Ray today, which Crystal Ray, I want to thank you so much for being a subscriber for so long. Crystal Ray has been a supporter of the channel since I was doing those videos in front of the bookcase, like solo videos, right? Old school, like 2016, 2017. So Crystal Ray, I appreciate you. I really, really do. And she's saying, when do you think they'll shut down Indiana Jones for a refurb? It seems like it's been breaking down several times a day lately. Yeah.
Breaking down. I mean, and also the sparks. Did you see that?
I've got the video right here for you.
Oh, Dre's got the receipts. All right, let's bring it up. Let's bring it up.
Just to provide some clarity to this, folks. This happened very recently, August 14th. So, yeah, yesterday. This is Tangaroa Joel here, who tried to go on, and after it had been down several times before, and this is what happened. It's going to happen pretty quick, so hopefully you guys see it here. Let's play it.
We can play it a couple times if we need
with
to.
audio.
Hello, oh, my friend. Hello, oh, my friend.
That is not good there, folks. Not good there. That is some tough stuff.
I will say, if the Imagineer can make that a controlled effect, that's pretty dope. If that thing can spark as you're going through, oh man, that would be awesome. But all kidding aside, that's not good.
No.
And being strapped in and not being able to get out with the potential of that thing catching fire, I don't know. I'd be stressed now.
And I know that they have to, and I know that they have to do what they have to do. I mean, especially if it's a safety issue, whenever this ride has to go down for refurb, I really hope that it doesn't during the time that I'm out there, because it's bad enough when we tried getting on Pirates and we couldn't get on it, and then I come back out another time and it's done for a refurb. So, I mean, I would be completely heartbroken if Indiana Jones is down for a refurb when I'm out there. But as I said, if it's because of a safety issue of something like this, it has to be done.
It has to be done. Now, those are individualized vehicles, so they're pretty much autonomous from the rest of the ride track, and the rest
you can take that one off. And
and apparently they did. Right beyond those, right where it actually had that incident is the maintenance bay. It's just beyond that area. So luckily, they were probably able to push it back into storage for maintenance later, and it was up later that day, which was good. I mean, that's a good thing to see and hear. But we have had this kind of diminishing maintenance at the resort recently regarding their rides, and that's a variety of factors. One, those labor issues that we were talking about before. So maintenance technicians, obviously, that's going to affect them as well. But not only that, though, but supply chain issues are one of the biggest things keeping major attractions now, not just at their Disneyland Resort, but at other theme park enterprises, all over the world, frankly. But for Disneyland Resort, particularly bad, and Indiana Jones and Radiator Springs Racers to that extent are, maintenance headaches. Those are vehicles. I mean, they have their own tire drive system. They have their own dual axles. They have their own. It's a motion simulator as well, so it's got that kind of complication going on and so forth. I know at Radiator Springs Racers, they've had one heck of a time trying to keep all of those cars in service, because after, I believe, 80,000 miles, they had to be completely redone. So they've had to reduce the amount of cars on the track at any one time in order to prevent that 80,000 mile threshold from coming up. So we've had reduced capacity at that attraction as they try to get along with parts that they've now had on back order since, I believe, November, and they still haven't come in. So these things are, I expect more of this, folks. Downtime is a major issue right now, as has been relayed by several people who have, or by a number of people, I should say, who have gone to these parks. Expect that to continue.
Yeah, no, 100%. 100%. And our good friend Showcase of Wishes, we love you, man. We love you. Is asking, when will we hear about Magic Key renewals? Oh, man.
Well, Walt Disney Company's 200th.
Right, yeah, the 200th anniversary.
Yeah.
This is a fascinating thing. Here's the thing. We know from the quarterly earnings report, Disney doesn't think too fondly. I know a lot of people are taking it personal, right? Like the unfavorable thing. It's not a personal thing. It's just that the Magic Keys don't spend a lot of money. They just don't. And I've been saying this, I've been singing this from the rooftops for a long, long time, that these key holders go into the park for 2 and 3 hours. They buy a popcorn bucket and lunch, or a popcorn bucket and dinner, and they leave. Okay. That's not a lot of money when you're talking about the overall, right? And look, even the highest pass, $1,400, you only have to go 6 or 7 times to pay that pass off. And we know a lot of key holders pay that off in about maybe 3 or 4 weeks. Let's be honest. Okay. So they're not making a lot of money on them. And so look, to Showcase's question, when will we hear about it? I don't know, man. I mean, I would think like people are already starting to fall off the system now. People's passes are already starting to expire.
Yep.
And they don't seem to really be in any hurry. Now, I do think that Marty mentioned here, which relates to Showcase's question, said that, did you guys see the Magic Key renewal page went live for a minute via testing today? I did see that. Did you gentlemen see that as well online?
I saw the article about it. Didn't encounter it myself, but I saw the article, and it looked like it had a web page screenshot listed. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's interesting.
Here, I'll bring it up here.
Yeah, bring it up, and I'll go ahead and share it. I don't know. I mean, that quarterly earnings, they really made it clear that they want to minimize the pass holders, not get rid of them, but minimize them because it's an unfavorable mix. And I just think that I just don't think they're in any hurry. And we'll see. So that's what happened today. They were testing it. Please sit tight. The queue to renew Magic Keys will open soon. I don't know. And it also begs the question, what are we going to renew into? Is it the same program, or is it going to be a new reimagined program that we're renewing into? That's a whole nother can of worms.
That's a whole nother can of worms. And even if they don't reimagine this system, which I don't think they'll do, at least extensively, not as of yet, the likelihood that you're going to be able to renew into the tier that you had before is also a diminishing prospect as time goes on. So there's a lot going on here. There's a lot of movement in this space. I know people are frustrated. I know people are kind of passionate. And unfortunately, that linked up with some maybe undesirable comments included in the quarterly earnings sheet. But look, those things are for investors. They have to be represented in some way. They have to use some kind of language, and that's kind of what was said there. Now, look, listen, if you think that language is bad, let me tell you a story about Salim Basul, the CEO of Six Flags, where he said, and I quote, he called, I'll read you this here. In internal calls, Salim has said that the clientele of their parks needed to change. He compared Six Flags to Walmart and their goal to become Target. Essentially calling, people, Walmart customers in not so many words.
And he said that, and promote them to Target customers. Yes, is basically what he's saying.
He said that in order to become successful, we needed to eliminate, quote, lower class guests from entering the park to improve the overall experience better for those with more money. In one call, he alluded to the dining pass, quote, abusers, and they shouldn't use the plans as an add-on to their food stamps they're likely already receiving. I mean, it was it was quite a thing. He also went on to say that that the parks were being used as pseudo daycare centers for teens and so forth like that. I mean, they were very, very scathing. So look, the unfavorable comment, I get that people are taking it personal, and again, like I said, the timing couldn't have been worse with Magic Keys. kind of in this limbo period, right? Like I said, though, it could be much, much worse.
Oh yeah, it could be. And oh, man, I can't. I'm not going to bring up the tweet, but there was a tweet from a friend of ours, Nitro, today, and I thought he made a good point. Where people have been kind of like this. The Magic Keys have been kind of like complaining about reservations and kind of rooting for this class action suit against Disney, right? Oh yeah. What do you think is going to happen, y'all? Like, what do you think is going to happen when you tie everything up with this legal civil suit, all this other stuff? Of course, it's going to mess up your renewal. Of course. So just be careful what you root for, because now it's biting everyone in the ass. I mean, that's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying.
I was rooting for the lawsuit, but I'm not a pass holder. I'm not a Magic Key holder.
Yeah.
So I wanted to see that issue resolved for sure. But again, though, that was going to inevitably have complication when it came to the Magic Key service going forward. And I don't know why people were necessarily surprised with that. I mean, the wheels of justice, they grind slow, but they grind fine. That's just kind of the crux of it. It really is an unfortunate situation, though. And look, listen, when you have the quarterly earnings call, come out with those comments on favorability, they're going to get to a favorable mix, hook or by crook. That's just what's going to happen. And when we go into this holiday season, don't be surprised if the pass that you want maybe necessarily isn't available, as Disney tries to capitalize on the rush of domestic and international tourists coming to their parks during a very highly profitable time for them.
100%. And then we got Justin Doyle here asking, can Disney have a special pass just for vloggers and that only allow them for special events? Now that's interesting, Justin, that you kind of add that at the end, that only allow them for special events. That's interesting. I thought they kind of already do, though. Like I've never been asked to an event. Like I've never been like approached by Disney to come to our event or come ride this early. I've never been asked,
Sure.
But I thought that was kind of already the case, though, with these special events, is that they reach out, the media teams reach out to like Laughing Place or Mice Chat, and they get like special vouchers or whatever to go to these special events. It's like a one-time thing. I thought that's already the case. Now, Dre, you did, though, propose a while ago of having an AP just for vloggers.
Yes.
If you want to elaborate on that and kind of like let Justin know what, because I don't know if Justin's been watching us for a while, kind of let the audience and let Justin know where you were going with that idea.
The idea is that you solve two issues, right? You solve the issue of vloggers maybe not getting the level of access that they want or need for their channels. And in doing so, you promote the parks, you promote their experiences, you promote new, maybe smaller items. Now, look, when it comes to media passes and so forth, yes, there are media passes that go out there, but they're usually limited to kind of bigger events, not the newest churro on Main Street, for example, right? You're not getting a media pass for that. But the vlogger pass would solve that issue. But you'd also have the second tertiary benefit of kind of inculcating a culture amongst the vloggers, right? That, hey, this vlogger pass comes with special privileges, but it also comes with special responsibilities that you need to uphold amongst yourselves. And it would set kind of unlisted bylaw, so to speak, for these vloggers to kind of keep to, and to kind of like refrain from disturbing guests with live streams, for example, or any other of the various activities associated with vloggers today. You would kind of diminish that, minimize that with a vlogger pass, with these kind of unlisted rules, so to speak. So I thought that, and you could have it where vloggers beyond a certain threshold in terms of subscribers and so forth are good for it and so forth. There are ways you can do it, and I felt that was appropriate for special events, like you said, OG. They do have them, just not for smaller things like I said, churros on Main Street.
Right. Now, the only concern I have with a vlogger pass is the shilling. Because when vloggers are depending now on Disney to give them their annual pass,
that's access media.
The shilling is going to be through the roof.
Oh yeah,
I mean it's going to be very agenda driven, and that look.
But for Disney's perspective, Yeah, it works out, doesn't it?
Oh, for that. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, if you can't beat them, join them and control them. And that's absolutely from a business perspective, from a PR perspective. Oh, Disney, that's chef's kiss, baby.
Money
chef's
in the bank.
kiss. You know, I mean, that's money in the bank, you know, but it definitely, I think, would cultivate a little bit more of that.
Oh, yes.
It's like we talked about before, like with sponsors and stuff and everything. Whenever there's sponsors involved, you know, it ties people up, right? And I think that might tie some vloggers up because now they're like, well, I don't want to make the mouse mad. My vlogger past kind of depends on it, you know?
Yeah, I mean, it's a way to do it. I believe WDW Pro, actually, when he was a guest on our channel, actually talked about that access journalism and so forth. I believe he began his commentary that he provided on the channel for that when it came to the website, that park place and so forth. That's definitely a thing, and I think that would definitely be be enhanced, right? That kind of behavior with a vlogger pass, but from Disney's perspective, they want their they want their products and their company to be represented as best as it can be. So it would solve that issue as well, at least for them.
100%. And this one, I'm going to shoot this over to George. He's our local D23 Expo expert. Casual, our good friend Casual, is asking, would they really have D23 Expo without a nighttime parade? Paint the Night coming back on Expo opening night would be pretty special. What do you think about that, George?
I actually would be quite interesting because I do know that Disney loves to tie in special things going on, special activities like throughout the parks tied with the expo, because a lot of people, well, now that they didn't need reservations, but even before you needed park reservations, people would purposely get park tickets even on the day of the expo, where they would spend the day at the convention center and then go over to one of the parks for the evening.
Wouldn't that be a dope thing, by the way, at the end of the parks panel, that everybody in the audience gets a special ticket to go to DCA afterwards and see the opening of Paint the Night or something?
That would be cool because that has happened.
Really?
Yes, that has happened. And I can't recall what it was for.
So there's precedent for it, so it can happen again. I think that would be wonderful. I think that would be a great way to treat your
I
biggest
have
fans.
to get back to you fellas on that, because I do know, I think it was during the very first expo back in 2009. And it was during the parks presentation or one of the panels that they were announcing, and they said everybody who is in the attendance of the audience today is going over to Disneyland for, I don't know if it was for, I cannot remember. I have to, it escapes me, but I do, that's not a far-fetched idea, Vash, because that has happened before.
Now, Marty Snyder is saying they can't run Paint the Night with the holiday food booths. I understand that, but you could have a limited run that occurs right before the holiday season where those food booths are installed. Does make it a complicating factor, but yes, you bring up a good point.
I'm sorry,
I do think
wasn't,
they can overcome it.
It wasn't. I don't think it was the first expo. Matt Landgrave just confirmed it was the Phantasmic 2.0.
Oh, see, that's really cool, man. So there's precedent for it, and with nighttime entertainment specifically, I think you could do it, and I think it'd be a nice way to treat your most loyal fans.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, yeah, 100%. Now we do have another question from USC Greg.
Sure.
And he's saying Mondo, 5 fires.
5 fires. I love that guy.
Yeah, no, Mondo's dope. I love Mondo, man. I'm in his live stream every now and then. Like, what's up, man? Like, he's always super friendly. He's a really good guy.
Yeah, him and Danny, good stuff.
And Danny, absolutely. But Greg is saying Mondo has been defending the Magic Key spenders, not unfavorable. His argument is that they are the ones who buy all the specialty merch and new foods. I mean, that's not entirely like incorrect. I mean, he's right on that. Right. But in the overall scope of things, the key holders don't really spend a lot of money. And it kind of goes back, Greg, to what I was saying earlier, where after like 5 or 6 visits, the pass is paid for and the key holders go in and they buy, like you said, the popcorn bucket, which is specialty merch, and the new food, and they leave. Really, they go into the park and they spend $37 and they leave. That's not a lot of money. It really isn't. And that's the problem. And they're only there for 2 or 3 hours. It's not a whole day, and they take that spot though for someone else, a day ticketer or somebody who could have spent the whole day. That's the issue.
And let's not be confused here too. Look, I love Mondo, I do, but let's not be confused. They've been able to monetize the pass holders, the Magic Key holders, and the locals and so forth to a great extent. I'm not saying that they haven't, but you can't get around the fact that domestic tourists or international tourists, they'll spend up to $1,000, $1,500, maybe even $2,000 a day when they're actually there. Who would you want to necessarily fill the park with day in, day out? There's no question. There's not even some math there. Now, look, they can still have those great, new merchandise drops and so forth. You could do it at World of Disney out in downtown Disney just as easily.
Right.
Now, you don't necessarily have to, give up a slot for somebody just coming up there for a Mickey popcorn bucket. These are things that these kind of implementations to get this more favorable mix that they bring out there at the quarterly earnings report. Don't be surprised if you see more of that in the future.
No, 100%. And look, Chapek and Christine Waithlines McCarthy, they're privy to the data. They're privy to the actual numbers, right?
Yep.
And a lot of key holders, what they'll do is they'll go, oh, well, look, the parks are packed. It's because of key holders. And that's probably true. But the thing is that body, and Dre, we've pounded this point a million times into the ground, but it has to be said, bodies in the park, for the sake of bodies in the park, don't do Disney any good. I mean, just people just being in the park, not spending any money doesn't help Disney. And we're seeing that. The parks are busy right now. And Chapek came out and said, unfavorable mix, they're not making the money. Because the key holders come in, they pop in and out, they don't spend a lot. And if you were to have tourism, more tourism dollars, more day ticket dollars, you would be getting a lot better mix in terms of the money on Disney's end. You would be seeing that. And the key holders are just kind of like the equivalent of kind of empty calories in a lot of way, because it's kind of like a lot of people, but there's no real substance there in terms of
the monetization, revenue generation power is just not there.
It's not there. It's just not there. So I do think they're going to reimagine this program. It might not be this renewal, I don't know, but Disney has been hard pressed for a long time now to reconfigure this whole situation. Especially with a guy like Chapek, man, he's looking at those numbers going, oh, we're giving away the farm. We're giving it away.
And this mentality, this is not a new thing. This was being done as early as the Michael Eisner, Paul Pressler era. That was the whole idea behind the Disneyland Resort, to set it up more like a Walt Disney World style destination resort with the Grand Californian, the Paradise Pier Hotel, and Disney California Adventure. They just never were able to achieve that. And now when they're on the precipice of actually doing so, they're going to stop at nothing in order to achieve their end goal.
No, 100%. What do you think, George, on this whole topic?
Yeah, I mean, I echo what you guys say. It's like, it doesn't matter. You can have 50,000 people in the park, if they are there for 2 to 3 hours and they're not spending, and, no revenues coming in. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you have 50,000. You could have then 10,000 people in the park, and they're buying merch, they're buying food, they're there throughout the whole entire day. You're capitalizing more on the 10,000 as opposed to the 50,000 that are there just for 2 to 3 hours.
And I will say, I'll defend the unfavorables a little bit. I do think it was a very short-sighted thing by Christine Waistlines McCarthy and others, right? To short shrift portion sizes and to increase costs as aggressively as they did, at least when it comes to food for the Disneyland Resort. As Walt Disney World, you can kind of get away with that because it's the bubble, right? And it's going to be a long time until you hit alternative food options off property. Disneyland Resort, not necessarily the case. So when you do, limit portion sizes to the extent they have and raise prices as much as they have, while you still have a kind of a local population there, that could be a little bit of an issue. So I'll defend the unfavorables a little bit. I think they're more willing to spend money if you have a good product in order to sell. And at this kind of point in time, especially with the cost of living, as we said in California and so forth, that might be a little bit of an issue. That might be there might be really hindrance for revenue opportunities and growth there. So it's look, if the locals paid more money than domestic tourists, international tourists, they'd be selling Magic Keys right now. That's just the bottom line. That's the bottom line.
And they don't.
Because they don't.
But it goes back to the same notion of, and I'm not going to say who they are, but I bet you a lot of people aren't going to know who I'm talking about, that you can take a reservation for the last hour before park closes.
5 minutes. 5 minutes.
Yeah, okay, 5 minutes. There we go. 5 minutes, even better. 5 minutes. You walk up to the castle and then have someone give you $20 just because you're in there for 5 minutes and you're going live. That $20 isn't going to Disney.
And you took up a reservation slot
for the
whole day away from somebody who probably would have stayed there the whole day, had 2 or 3 meals, gotten the merch, maybe make a reservation at Savi's Workshop, Oga's Cantina. I mean, come on. I mean, it's that kind of stuff. Oh, it's ridiculous.
It drives me crazy. USC Greg says it would be wise to not allow Dream Key holders to renew. I think that key is giving Disney trouble. Well, yeah, it is. That's actually the class action suit is all because of that Dream Key.
Absolutely.
5 Fires Mondo did a poll yesterday, and 70% would renew the Dream, 18% the Believe, and 12% the rest. That's fascinating.
Wow. That's really
fascinating,
interesting.
man.
Now, you understand there when it comes to that poll, think about who's watching. But it is very, very interesting. I mean, I've heard the rate for Dream Keys as high as 35%, maybe even more. That's kind of the what I've been able to suss out in terms of the breakdown.
Wow,
it's a lot, and when you have free parking attached to that, when you have a limited no blackout dates, essentially, right? I know the language will be changing here shortly, but when you have that level of access, people are going to use it, and. Let's be honest here. Disney kind of rushed this out. They rushed out the system. They were talking about a loyalty program, didn't go in that direction, and now they're all paying for it. And with the amount of access that people got for all this time, right, from I believe January, probably December, January-ish to all the way to now, people were talking about, we're getting a nice level of access, right? Where this bucket thing is actually working in our favor. Well, there was a cost to be incurred with that.
Yep.
There was a debt accruing, and as Disney recognized in the quarterly earnings report, and as they will remedy now, they're looking to pay back that debt, so to speak. So,
well, and that's the issue. Is there's a big disconnect with what the Magic Keys think they're providing to the resort and what they actually are. So the Magic Key thought, we're the bread and butter, but they're really not, and that's the thing. And look, there's nothing wrong with it. I'm a local. I have a lot of the same practices a lot of Magic Keys have. I go in for a few hours and I leave. I'm guilty of it too. So this is self-awareness here, guys. Right? This is self-awareness here. Yeah. But look, the fact is the Magic Keys weren't bringing in the revenue. And Disney knew they didn't bring in the revenue. That's why the buckets were so heavily skewed to those tourism day ticketers in the beginning. And it wasn't until the key holders complained, and it wasn't until the class action suit that Disney opened up those key holder buckets. And then that's why we got the unfavorable comment at the quarterly earnings, because their hand was forced. Initially, Disney didn't want to have the buckets the way they were, but the complaints and the class action forced them into it. And now they're paying for it financially, and it's not good. It's not good, my friends.
Hey, I just thought of something. I saw Showcase's comment about DCA only Magic Keys. That's an interesting thing, because Paul Presser was actually looking to do that with DCA originally. They would have a separate annual pass only for DCA, and then a separate pass only for Disneyland. That didn't go very far for very long, obviously, with the disastrous opening that DCA incurred when it initially opened. But George, I think I come up with a solution. You can reinstate Dream Keys, but only out of state. How about them apples?
There you go.
Yes, there you go.
I'd be all for that.
There you go. I like that.
And then I got one more question before George has to head out. We'll continue the party, Dre, but I think George has to head out. He's on the East Coast, so it's a lot later over there, and he's a family man.
He is the family man. He's got the family. He's got the work. Man, that's crazy. That's insane.
and I'm telling you, George, 10:30. Man, you're a stronger man than I am, dude. I'm in bed by like 9:15. 9:15.
I'm an original party animal.
You are, dude. You are. But this question, though, I want you to stay after this question. But I want to go to you first with this. Michael Wilson's asking, do you anticipate Chapek will receive boos from the crowd at D23?
I think this is a situation where, given the opportunity, I think people would. Mind you, I think it's childish. I think it's immature. I think it's uncalled for. Regardless of whether or not that you disagree with someone or not, you don't have to go to this level, especially in an open crowd setting that can stir up something that can cause even more issues. Like fights breaking out or what have you, and disruption, and them even having to shut down the whole entire presentation just because you want to get your feel at booing someone. Having said that, I think Disney is going to have this in mind, especially when he is presented to come out onto the stage. And I think that they will probably have a pre-announcement, sort of kind of like what they do during the Hall of Presidents. Right. No booing, no vulgar language, no disruption. Let's just keep it a wholesome, family-friendly have a wholesome family attitude during this. And I don't think they'll specifically say Chapek, but everyone will get to know what they're actually referring to.
Beard man bad. I got you.
There we go. Beard man bad. I actually don't think he's going to get any boos. I don't know if they're going to enforce some sort of no boo policy or what have you, but I don't think he will. I mean, Kathleen Kennedy isn't really like super loved, in the Star Wars community, and she gets out there at Star Wars Celebration every year or every other year, whenever they do it, and she's fine. I think people are very much anticipating something that probably won't happen. I think people are different in person anyway, compared to when they're behind a keyboard on the internet. And I think once you get there, people sort of will be professional and sort of courteous to him and just sort of let him do his thing. I really don't see.
And I hope that's the case. I would hope that us as a community, because I would be embarrassed to know that I'm affiliated with a community that now is like force themselves to the point where it's like you have to be very childish and almost teenager like. I'm sorry, folks, but it's the truth that you have to subdue yourself to these kind of actions. And it's like, don't, and anyone who's listening that you may know someone who may want to cause a stir up, just let's keep it friendly. Let's keep it positive, and let's see what the man has to say. Let's see what he's going to do.
Right.
Because then, I mean, now if he ends up bringing out another damn Target dog, then we could talk about another.
There you go. Yeah. Now it's okay to boo.
Now it's okay to boo.
Yeah.
100%.
Listen, it's a fascinating thing. Now, look, I understand the equivocation to Kennedy, and I think that's fair. I'll say this though, OG. Where is the D23 Expo taking place this year?
Anaheim.
Okay. Do you think that there might be a disproportionate level of locals there that might be a little bit ticked off over the Magic Key situation and so forth?
Could be. Yeah, it could be.
Okay, so there's already one notch against him.
That's a notch. Yeah, that's a notch.
And look, I don't know what'll happen. I'm kind of 50-50 with it. Will there be boos?
That's why I think that they'll cover their ass. I really do.
They'll do something.
They're going to make an announcement, nothing specific, but just to kind of put out the point. Let's just keep it friendly.
Well, and here's the other thing too, is I'm part of this community, and I've been a pass holder for a while, long time, since 2003, I believe.
Sure.
I really hope that the key holders don't go up there and start booing them because they're mad about their renewals. We already have a terrible reputation. You said like the whole pass hole
that
moniker. That's been a thing for like a decade or more.
Yes.
Please do not boo and just cement that whole image that Disney already has of pass holders and that like toxic sort of thing. Like that's the thing that bothers me. It's like the booing him isn't going to change anything. He's not going to be like, oh, you know what? I got booed. I guess I gotta, do what they want. Guys, it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. Like
it's just going to make things worse for yourself. That's all it's going to do. It's just going to make you look, But before you guys move on, I know this is a awesome, robust discussion. I would love to stick around and continue the party, but unfortunately, as Mr. VashSky says, a family man's job is never done. So unfortunately, I have to leave the party a little early. You fellas keep that party rolling and keep the questions coming out. I want to thank everyone for joining us. Keep on rolling. Thank you for the questions. I will say that if you are going to be in the Disneyland area for the D23 Expo, going to be in the parks from September 4th to September 14th, I will be on location. So check out my my Twitter account at Disney George. I will be posting a lot of photos, a lot of activity going on. So if you happen to see me or you want to meet up, let me know, and we'll definitely make that happen. So if you want to find me on social media, you can find me on my YouTube channel at Disney Family Man 23. As I mentioned before, you can interact with me on Twitter at Disney George. And of course, you can find me here on Orange Grove 55 at Citrus Corner with all that sweet, juicy, but yet sticky Disney news and info.
100%. We love you, family man. Take it easy.
Thank you.
Get some sleep, and we'll see you next time, brother.
Thank you. Oh, and by the way, Alia, if you're still on there, I did see your comment. I will be looking out for that Disneyland Hotel 2023 opening date. So thank you so much for that heads up. I'll definitely check that out.
Very
Perfect.
cool.
Later, brother.
Thank you, guys.
Later, brother. Thank you.
And we won't go for too much longer.
Folks, we only have high-class stuff on this show.
That's right.
Yes, we do. Yes, we do. And we went to my 1 hour and 45-minute crew. We won't take too much more of your time. It's been a while, but Theme Park Casual said here, and I think he made a great point. Sadly, Disney had their chance to revamp the AP system and they botched it. Now it's going to be painful for everyone, including Disney. And that is absolutely true, Casual. Look, here's the thing. They took the old AP program, they rebranded it to Magic Key, which actually I think the Magic Key branding was pretty solid, I will say.
Yeah, no, it would look good.
It looked good. It was a good branding move for sure. But they took that old system and they just layered over the top of it the reservations. And that's the problem. They needed to really reimagine this pass with the reservations in mind. And they didn't. And that's what got them in trouble with pass holders. And that's what got them in trouble with the class action.
And it all stems from the fact, like 6 days, come on. But it all stems from the fact that I think they had it in their minds, oh yeah, we'll go ahead and get this perception of value and we'll control the access on the back end. We'll just limit it that bucket as small as we can get it. And turns out that wasn't quite the solution. It maybe theorized to be in the halls of TDA. Right. Got him into trouble, and now it's like, well, we can't necessarily do that whole thing again. So what do? We can't, if we can't limit access, post purchase, then it's going to be pre-purchase, and so it's so endlessly frustrating because I think the loyalty program, depending on what the final maneuvers of it were, it could have gone probably a long way in minimizing a lot of the problems that they had, after launch of this product. It's such a shame.
It is. And Ollie, a friend of the channel, says, "Daddy Josh botched it." Let's be specific. It's funny. It's funny. Like
Josh, unfavorable DMR.
There we go. Like, look, this is the thing, I mean, he runs the parks. How come nobody, and actually, to be fair, I am seeing more of the community starting to address this and say, look, Josh isn't innocent here. And look, I don't have anything against him as a person. I think he seems like a really nice guy. But I mean, he runs the parks. When Chapek ran the parks, everything with the parks fell on Bob Chapek with the fans. No one turned to Bob Iger and said, "Oh, Iger's messing up the parks. Look at all those Galaxy's Edge cuts. It's all Bob Iger." No one did that. But for some reason now that Daddy Josh is on, running the parks and Chapek is the CEO, it still falls on Bob Chapek.
Exactly.
Come on.
No, 100%. And the blame has to be. I mean, it has to happen somewhere, and this is his division. This is what he's responsible for. This is that favorable mix that's on the quarterly earnings report that happens directly under Josh Unfavorable Diamaro's department. I mean, this is how it goes. It's some blame has to go to him. I mean, I don't think there's any two ways about it here. This was a system here, and he even said, "Oh, the 2020 and beyond presented us an opportunity here to reimagine different programs and so forth." Well, hey, this is when you reimagine programs. By the way, this isn't just one system or program that they debuted that has been just completely filled with controversy here. Also, Genie Plus. I mean, I still think it's oversold. It's internally. I mean, the polling suggests, at least from the surveys that they're getting within the company, this is one of the most controversial systems that they've ever debuted for the entire Parks Experience and some Parks division in its history. And that happens under Daddy Josh. That happens under his watch. You have to start pointing blame here, guys. I mean, it's not all on Bob Chapek. I understand he sets the tone, but somebody else runs it, manages it. That's Josh.
You're right, and consistency. So if you were someone that was saying, "Oh, Chapek, this, that, and the other," when he ran the parks, and you have to be that same person and say, "Okay, now it's Daddy Josh." You just do, and a lot of fans don't do that. It's just the goal shifting to just always make sure that Chapek gets the blame.
Yeah,
beard man bad all the time. That's it.
Beard man bad. Oh boy, it's frustrating. He does look good with the beard, though. I will say. I know it's an optics move, but it's very classy.
It's interesting. Like we kind of touched upon that on the phone about how it's possible that maybe his new PR person, Christina Shockey, was sort of like a part of that in terms of like the whole beard move, like to get him to be more likable. PR people do that. They totally do that. And is that a move? Maybe. We're not saying for sure, but it could be for sure.
Bob Bearded Chapek, man, that's it. It's I'm sure it was all these things that the CEO position does. It's all calculated.
No, 100%. And Lovelow says Daddy Josh. That's so funny.
Hey, we've been saying it for a while now. It is changing, like you said, OG. Because back in the day, you criticized Josh Diamaro. Oh man.
Man, you get canceled.
The comment section. There you go. Right. Now I do see a lot of it shifting because I think, and rightfully so, right? He's in charge here. Again, if you're going to criticize Chapek when he was in the same role before, I think you have to be consistent going forward. That's just
100%. And in terms of like the magic key to kind of close it out, we're hitting 2 hours now, so we're gonna close it out.
Sure.
In terms of the magic key, I know one thing: when they go up for sale, probably soon, but you never know. But whenever they do, will the magic key people renew or buy into it?
Yeah, I'm gonna get one for show. For show. I'm getting that for show.
Well, I think, as Walt would put it,
and the hard facts.
That's some hard facts right there. That's absolutely going to be the case. And this is what we were talking about right before. Are they, are they purposefully not doing anything in order to build some of that demand up for this product? Because there was some talk before that people weren't going to renew and so forth. Actually, that's one of the last things we can bring up here. Let me see if I can bring it up here real fast.
Sure.
MiceChat had a poll on their update today about whether or not people, are you going to renew, so forth. I thought the results were very interesting. So let me see if I can find it real fast.
Let's pull that up. And I'm going to adjust my mic.
And it looks like you are... Okay, yeah. All right, so this is the poll here, guys. And you can see it here. They're asking, let's see, if you are a current Magic Key holder, how likely are you to renew? And they ask the following questions. I'll absolutely renew at almost any price. I'll renew if the price doesn't go up too much. I'll renew but downgrade it to a more affordable tier. I'm not so sure I'll renew. I'll switch to day tickets and special promotions. And I'm done with Disney for now. So I'm unsure myself, so that's what I'll go ahead just to get the results here. Out of 1,800 votes here, this is very interesting, guys. Going from, biggest to smallest here, I'm done with Disney for now, 31%. Those are Mice Chat viewers. You would think that more people would be opting in. Supposedly not. 23%, I'm not sure I'll renew. I think a lot of people are in that category. And, between the people who won't, won't or are unsure, maybe they want to bring up some of this demand here. It's a very interesting thing. I'll renew if the price doesn't go up too much, 22%. At 12%, we have I'll absolutely renew at any price. I think that's limited there, but there are talks of maybe a new Dream Key, maybe without reservation dates attached, but at a significantly higher price. That's been thrown around, I'm sure. I'll switch to day tickets and special promotions, only 10%. So Mice Chat was making the argument, I believe Dusty on his live stream was making the argument that, this push for to limit access to Magic Keys might be driven by the intent for Disney, or the desire for Disney to shift some of that towards, day tickets, special promotions, right? Especially after Oogie Boogie Bash selling out as quickly as it did. I think there's a desire there. Only 10% are willing to do so, and then 2% I'll renew but downgrade to a more affordable tier. So very interesting stuff attached to this poll. I thought I would share it with you guys.
Yeah, I gotta agree with Ollie on this when she said they're so not done with Disney. I don't think they are. You're seeing the reason why you're seeing so much anger online is because they're not done. If people were truly done, they wouldn't care. They obviously care. They do obviously care. So I don't buy the 31% we're done. No, because the minute those Magic Keys go on sale, oh God, they're gonna, it's gonna be like a madhouse.
I think it is. And apparently there were some people were posting, I believe it was last night, how the ticket booths were more staffed than they've seen them. That's kind of an interesting thing. Maybe, like Matt Landgrave suggests here, best way to drive up hype is through false scarcity. Hey, look, listen, we're now part of this administration here, where Bob Chapek was the architect of the Disney Vault system.
Right. 100%.
False scarcity is it's in his blood. So, is that out of the question? I don't think so. And to your point, OG, if anybody had reservations about a reservation system locked Magic Key, well, they certainly aren't expressing that on social media and in other places.
No, 100%. 100%. I've been in this community a very long time. Long enough where AOL dial-up was a thing when I got into it, and I'm telling you, I've heard all these same arguments about we're done with Disney. I'm not going to renew. I'm not going to go there. I'm mad. I'm going to go there and some other park instead. Look, maybe eventually that will actually happen. But since I've been in this community for a very long time, it's never happened. And the fervor and the anger and the amount of attention it's getting all the time shows you people are not done with it. If you're really done with it, you'd be getting your Universal Annual Pass and you'd be happy over there, and you wouldn't even give Disney the time of day. When things are irrelevant, they don't tend to dominate the conversation. How many Twitter wars do you see about Felix the Cat or Betty the Boop? Not many, because they're very irrelevant. You see people arguing and screaming and yelling about Disney because it's still the one, that's what everyone wants to do.
Yeah. And especially, in the Southern California market, right? It was like a lifestyle for many, many, many years. And people don't want to give that up. Let's be honest here. And even when Disney tried to price people out, right, with their year-over-year price increases, which, by the way, the sheer volume of annual passes before, that led to exaggerated price inflation, right? Because they were trying to price people out. people either paid the new price and just, spread it out over the 12-month monthly payment plan, which is also another huge thing. We didn't even get into that. But they either did that or they just went to a lower tier. So then it was just less revenue. So Disney's tried to curtail this. I mean, I remember proposals coming out of TDA for 10 years, something like that. I mean, it's been in the process for a while. And they had a chance. They just screwed it up.
They screwed it up. They botched it. They completely crapped the bed. They really, really did. And our buddy Showcase here says Newsom can do Disney a favor and shut down Disneyland again so Disney can reimagine the Magic Key.
Time to grow up. Time to grow up.
Time to grow up.
Absolutely, Showcase. Come on.
Love it.
Do tomorrow a favor. Go ahead one more time. I'm sorry. What was that?
And the hard facts.
Hard facts.
There you go. And then we have Crystal right here says, yep, AOL dial-up, the true OGs. Yeah, I mean, AOL dial-up that was a crazy time. That really was. That was
time. My gosh. I mean, I remember those days. I remember the days of going on the, Mice Chat or Mouse Planet, reading the Outlets articles, Jim Hill articles, all that kind of stuff. I mean, that was
the time, dude.
That was part of the time, yeah. And it really did. I was just talking to OG about it. It really did shape the conversation regarding criticism and stuff for the parks, right? We always have these kind of list of executives that we all kind of pin everything on. The reality, though, is. I know we gave Josh unfavorable DiMauro some of that ire, but it's realistically, these are departments that have tens, maybe even hundreds of people attached to them. There's a lot of people making decisions all throughout the company, middle management, and so forth. It's not just one person, but to Al Lutz's credit, he did shape how we talk about these things in that way. It's very interesting.
Oh, Al Lutz completely revolutionized the Disney fan community. And to this day, like you said, Dre, I mean, we're still, the conversations are still very much framed like the same way that Al Lutz sort of presented it back in the day. Very much a good guy versus bad guy dynamic, right?
Yes.
Back then, it was like Paul Pressler versus
Cynthia Harris.
Right, or versus Matt May.
Yep.
There were these very, very evil, executives, and then you had the Matt May who'd ride in on his white horse, and he wanted to fix things, but he couldn't because it was just the evil Pressler wouldn't let him. Yeah. Same conversations now. It's Chapek is the mustache guy, and Tomorrow's the guy on the white horse, and he wants to fix it, but he just can't.
But he can't, though.
Beard all this
man
stuff.
Bad.
Beard man bad, So
Josh DiMauro comes up and it's
perhaps you think you're being treated unfairly
by Beard Man bad, right? And he makes his point and it goes,
I am altering the deed.
Oh no,
I don't alter it any further.
Man, it's this kind of very black and white, almost Star Wars space opera fantasy type characterization, right? And it's the simplest way to tell a story. I get it. I understand why it's done, especially in journalism or whatever. The reality, though, is, folks, it's much more grayer than you think.
Way more. Yeah, way more nuanced. There's a lot of hands in that, a lot of, what is it? What's the saying? A lot of fingers in the pie. I know that sounds dirty, though. I don't know. I don't know what to say. I don't want to mess it up and sound gross, but you know what I'm saying.
There's a lot of designers designing the car. It's kind of.
There we go.
That's a better way of going about it.
There we go. And our buddy Justin Doyle says, good news or bad news, if Disney is being talked about in some form, Disney's winning because they're being talked about. It's true. I mean, the only companies and entities and fandoms that get talked about are the ones that are relevant. And like I said, no one argues about Felix the Cat anymore. No one argues about it because it's not relevant. No one cares. No one talks about Popeye. No one gets in a heated argument on Twitter about Popeye. No one. So if people are arguing about that, Disney or Star Wars or even DC, well, it's still in the conversation. It matters.
It does. And it's interesting. like I remember the kind of revulsion for products like like Last Jedi, for example, right? When that came out, that was the hottest thing. Star Wars was the biggest franchise. So when you had Last Jedi as kind of this more maybe divisive film than maybe people were expecting, there were some heated discussions, arguments, and so forth. Now Star Wars might, they might put something out there that, hey, maybe it was even more divisive, but it doesn't get necessarily the same chatter because it's kind of fallen to the wayside. Or, it just doesn't, we just don't see it represented in the film context where a lot of that chatter happens. So it's interesting. True. Relevance, it matters.
It matters. It absolutely matters. Showcase says more Epcot. He's kind of poking fun at Chapek's comments about needing more Disney, more relevant.
Yes. Yeah. More Disney, Showcase. More family. I don't know. They have something authentically Disney, distinctly Chinese, something like that. I don't know.
Something like that, And then we got Isadora Rendon, and we're going to wrap it up after this one. Isadora says, thoughts on the rumor that Paint the Night costumes were taken out of storage and are back at stage at Disneyland. Now, Isadora, we did mention this earlier in the show, but just to kind of like answer your question, I think that there's definitely something potentially there. I'm not going to say like, oh, it's happening. I watched Dave's video on Fresh Baked. I think that's where you got it from. I think, and I was just as excited as you were. Like I was like, oh man, this might mean we're getting it back, and it might mean that, But look, I've said many times, we've been stood up at the altar many times by Disney. I don't want to get too excited, but what do you think, Dre? Real quick to kind of wrap for Isadora.
Look, listen,
is there a chance?
I think there is. I think they've had these floats for a long time. They know it's a fan favorite. They know people have been asking about it. I mean, I remember when they made the announcement for Main Street Electrical Parade this last time that people were asking about where's Paint the Night. They understand it'll get the fans out. They understand it'll generate some hype. I mean, what better way to kick off maybe a 100th anniversary push at this year's D23 Expo than by bringing back some of the perennial favorites that fans remember in the form of Paint the Night? I think it'd be very, very interesting. They have those floats. They like Fresh Baked has said. I guess they did transport those costumes. They're doing all this for a reason. Don't put it past them. They could definitely do it. And we saw, I don't know if you were there for that conversation with George when he said that, I guess at a former D23 Expo, they had all the attendees there that were part of the parks panel actually attend the opening of, I believe it was Fantasmic 2.0 there in 2017. So we have had these kind of tie-ins with the, we'll do it. D23 Expo before, right? We've seen that kind of integration before. I wouldn't put it past Disney for doing something that's that'll make fans happy in the form of bringing that Paint the Night back.
No, 100%. We just got a crazy bot in the chat. I blocked it. Yeah. I'm telling you, man. Now we got our first bot. That's our first bot ever in the chat.
That's our first bot.
First time bot.
We might need a mod. I don't know. We're getting up here. We're building up.
We're getting up there. Oh, Theme Park Wizard, you're funny, man. Go back to Six Flags, you spammer. You're hilarious, so funny. Ethan. You're funny.
Had a whole conversation of Six Flags, didn't realize that he had his problems with Six Flags up until the time we actually record. Very funny. Great stuff, Theme Park Wizard. Thank you for having me on.
Absolutely. And check out their video. Before we close it out, check out the video that Dre did with Theme Park Wizard. Man, this is a live show. What I'll do is once this is uploaded, I'll add your video that you did with him in the description. So people can check that out because I thought it was a really cool conversation. So Wizard had Dre on. They talked about Six Flags and the sea. It was great. Absolutely fantastic. So I will link that down below and definitely give him a subscribe and everything. But yeah, fascinating. So Dre, if you can let everybody home before we close it out, if you can let everybody home know where they can find you on social media.
Hey, best place to find me is going to be at VashSky on Twitter. I'm sure you've seen it in multiple times in the frame here. So, but if you're having trouble spelling it, it's V as in Victor, ASH, VashSky. Go ahead and type that in the Twitterverse. I should pop up. And if you want to see me, well, it's going to be on the channel you're watching right now at OrangeGrove55 at Freshly Squeezed, your source for juicy news and info squeezed fresh right from the Grove.
Orchard fresh and delicious.
That's right. I love it.
Absolutely. And thank you all for watching to our 2 hour and 7 minute crew. Getting into the OG After Dark kind of time frame here. We'll be transitioning into ASMR now. No, I didn't.
I like that. That sounds pretty appetizing. Here we go.
Thank you all so much for watching, and as always, have a wonderful day.
Thank you very much.